Hey, it's Jill Broadbent here with another process video for the Hip Kit Club, and today I'm focusing on the main kit for August. There are so many fun details in this kit, and this paper was one that spoke to me the very first time I opened the collection, and I've been wanting to use it, and so that's going to be kind of the basis for my layout. I went through and pulled out some of the cardstocks I still had after making multiple layouts this month, and you can see I've got plenty of product still to work with. There is so much goodness in this main kit. I also love that kind of ditzy floral, and I like the play of that small floral with these bold stripes. And then I've still got a lot of embellishments here that I'm going to be using. The main kit has those fun shaped die cuts as well as the chipboard die cuts. You've got the foam gold alphabet as well as the foam stickers. So I've got plenty of things to add dimension and detail to this layout. It's going to be so fun. So I'm coming back to look at these bold stripes, and I love this concept. But I also decide that I want to use those strips and be able to kind of manipulate them by keeping the concept of the stripe going down the page, but I want to make them thinner so I can pull them into the center, and I also want to make them shorter so that I can do some mixed media behind them. So that's kind of what I'm starting with. So I'm cutting the strips down to about 1 1/4 of an inch each, and that's going to let me kind of cheat them to the center of the white base of my cardstock. So I've got them all cut, and then I decide let's put them in kind of the same order they were, which is rainbow order across the page. And then I decide I want them shorter so that I've got white space above and below. So I start with them at about 9 inches, and then I make some a little shorter than that and a little longer. And I'm making sure that the pink and the blue that kind of flank the outside edges, that those are equal lengths. So once I have those all in place, then I want to add some mixed media behind it. And I just grab my basic watercolor collection. This is just something you can find at any local craft store or big box store. They're very basic, but they work perfectly for what I need here, which is just a nice watercolor wash behind each of these cardstock strips. So I'm mixing my colors, trying to match that cardstock, and you can see I grabbed just a little bit of gray, and that's going to help just match the tone of the cardstock pink. So once I have a good shade going, then I'm just watercoloring a space above and below the strips. With this first one, I'm thinking I want them to go down both sides of the strip, but then I realize I want to keep that white space really clean between each strip. So then I'm going to make sure that the pink and the blue have some watercolor wash that goes outside of the left and right edge, but then the others just keeping the watercolor at the top and the bottom of each strip. So I love this layered effect. You can see here now I've got everything watercolored, and then I'm going back through and adding more watercolor just to add some splotches and some drips and splatters, and that's going to really give it that nice watercolor effect and layer up that color. And I'm making these just a little bit darker in color and adding them, masking off the areas so that the color stays within its little area on the paper. So then I go back through and I'm purposefully dropping big droplets of water and little splatters so that it really gives it that movement and organic feel of the watercolor. So I finish up with the pink one, and again I'm just adding lots of drops of water, and you'll be able to see the detail. And when that dries, it also just gives another depth to that little watercolor wash in the background. So then I add all of my pieces, and you can see here that I've cut the top so that those strips are going to run from the top of the page, and then the watercolor washes go into the middle of the page. And if you watch till the end, you're going to see where this concept came from. I want to go ahead and show you my entire process here, but I will give you a little sneak peek into the back side of the process if you watch to the very end of this video. So here you can see I'm attaching that to the nice blue cardstock base, and then I gave myself another strip of that piece from the white that's all sewn and watercolor washed, and I'm just roughing up the edges of that cardstock so it has a little more dimension and movement. And I'm grounding the layout with a little bit more of that pattern just right at the bottom, just 1/4 of an inch of a strip of that. And so now I'm able to use these photos. I wanted the photos side by side, so I felt like the stripes needed to run vertically across the page. And I want to mix in that floral cardstock or the floral pattern paper because I love that little touch of floral and also just the smaller scale of the pattern on it. I think I want to use the orange cardstock, but I changed my mind and just stick with the florals. I've got so many embellishments I want to add in as well that I don't feel like I needed that extra cardstock. And I also didn't want to fully matte these photos with the floral because I wanted to just use it as a little accent piece. So I've just kind of tucked some strips of it up above and below. So then I'm cutting the stickers from the carrier sheet so that I can move them around before I commit to where I want them. So I know I love that title, Lovely Day. It fits perfectly. My girls were at a wedding this day, and so it's a great title to use. And then I start going through all the embellishments. And this is a very standard process for me. I lay out everything that could be a possibility, and then I start editing from there. So I love that little journaling tag. I think I've tried to use it on multiple layouts, and today it actually gets to find its place. I think it's so beautiful with the gold foil at the top. And so I'm finding things that match the different colors and just laying them on the layout so that then as I start to build, I know what I want to use. And not everything will make it on the page, but this is a great way to start so that you can determine what you like. So in that blue section at the bottom of my layout, you can see I've got a lot of different florals. All the florals that were available I've got layered out down there. And there are so many that are really fun and useful, but as I think about it, I want them all coming out from the bottom of that title so that that straight strip of cardstock that shows has a little bit of movement down there. And you can see I've got florals that are in a vase and I'm tucking them upside down. You can see I've got a basket full of florals and it even has some food and I'm tucking that one in. And then I just keep layering up all the florals. And it works beautifully. I'm also going to lay that title on top so you can't see where the clusters start and end. And when that title's in place, then you just have beautiful florals that are dripping down from the title. And so when you have a lot of florals, look at different ways you can use them. Just because they are vertically in a vase doesn't mean you have to use it that way. You can trim them, cut them, tuck them, and use them however you need. So now I start working on the upper area of the page, and I wanted that photo of the girls close up to be the focal photo, so I'm adding it to the top and layering the other one behind. And then I love that gold chipboard striped frame. I love the touch of gold and adding a little bit more stripe as well. So I'm kind of keeping everything in its color family within that section of the strips on the base of the page. And I decide then that that journaling strip could be put on the page as a pocket, even because what I love about it is that gold top, and I want to be able to tell the story. So I'm thinking of that while I start building the left cluster. So I cut that gold frame down so I can use just a portion of it, tucking out the top. I've got some fun foam on the back of my layout, or on the back of my photos, to give them the dimension that I need. And then I'm adding that whole cluster to that pattern paper. And then that piece will go in the top left corner of the layout, and then I'll start embellishing around it. So again, I always make sure that there's not adhesive on the full edges or foam all the way to the outer edges so that there's always room to be tucking things and deciding where I want to add. And so this is where I decide I want that little tag to be an interactive piece of the journaling. So I'm cutting just little pieces of paper and gluing them to the foam so that then it stops the card from going down too far and also lets it come up and down on the actual pocket there. So you can see I've glued that down. Sometimes I do that. I make the pocket with foam, but since I already had the foam on this page, all I needed was just a little paper that would hold it from moving left and right or falling down too far below the photo. So I grabbed some gold thread, and I love just that soft metallic shine that it adds, but it's not bulky at all. It's just so thin. And I've tied a little bit of it around the end of that tag that already had a hole, and that's from the chipboard die cuts. So I've got some foam floral stickers that are going in the corner of the photos. And then I think I want to just keep using the gold thread. I love it. I think it's such a subtle and beautiful detail. So I attached just a little bit of that thread under that camera and made a little cluster of 3 in that bottom left corner. Then I added the butterfly at the top, and then I'm kind of mimicking that same concept in the top right corner on the other photo. So I added the foam floral sticker, then these chipboard pieces, and I decided that rainbow circle should go under the floral. So I move the butterfly up, and then I can keep, again, that kind of cluster of 3, adding the gold twine or the gold thread, and then that whole cluster feels like it fits together. From here, I start to just, there are so many good pieces, right? I just want to keep using a lot more details, but I kind of edit most of it out. I wanted to use that little speech bubble, but I felt like it was just distracting. And again, this is personal preference at this point. You could keep going. There's so many things that would make it beautiful. I just usually tend to err on a little less embellishment so that the focus stays on my photo, but there is no wrong way to use all of these fun pieces. So then I made another little swirl of the thread, and I'm tucking it with a glue dot underneath my floral cluster. So then I've got 3 different spots where the thread is wound up and added. So again, see, I think I could totally leave that green heart and the yellow heart, but I decided to take them off. And that's where I left the layout. So simple embellishment, but I feel like then the focus is on those photos in the middle. You can see I added my journaling there and tucked it in, and that finishes up. So now you're going to see the footage of where things kind of went haywire for me. And I wanted to leave this in and let you see, because this is a process video and you should see when things don't work exactly as planned. And so, when I watercolor on a layout, I typically will run it through my Mink because it will flatten it back out. Sometimes the watercolor will warp your paper a little bit, and I do it all the time. I put this through my Mink machine all the time, and today, for some reason, after I have painted it and sewn on it, it completely got jammed and ripped up the top of my paper. So then I had to make a quick decision if I was going to start completely over and repaint and re-sew, and I decided not to, and I just adjusted and cut off the top where it had gotten kind of mangled in the machine, and then redesigned the layout, kind of working with the blue base, and I think it turned out beautifully. I wanted to show you how sometimes we can take those mistakes and turn them into masterpieces. We don't have to start over. We can just let that help us in our creative process and guide us to another idea that maybe we hadn't thought of before. So thanks for joining me today, and be sure to check out hipkitclub.net for details on all of the upcoming kits and collections, and be sure to like and subscribe the YouTube channel so that you don't miss any upcoming videos.